It's Mark Leslie. Welcome to Free Friday Frights for Friday, November 9th, 2018. Shooting this from a hotel in Las Vegas. And I wanted to talk about that because when you stay in a hotel, you have to think about the hundreds, thousands of people who stayed in the very same room that you stayed in. Whether or not you believe in ghosts, whether or not you believe that there are spirits wandering the earth that are maybe left over with unfinished business trapped on this mortal plane, you can't help but wonder the stories of the different people who lived there and the impressions that were left in time, perhaps from those who've been there before. And that's just one of the eerie elements that can happen when you're thinking about staying at different hotels, as I often do, stay at hundreds and hundreds of hotels around the world, and I try not to think about this, but it also happens. Interestingly, because I'm an author and I'm always looking to different ways to promote my work, I took a copy of the book Haunted Hospitals, which was co-authored with Rhonda Parrish, and left it in the hotel room. And I usually leave signed copies of books in hotel rooms, and this one for Haunted Hospitals, on the cover page, I wrote inside that I don't think this room is haunted, but it was definitely haunted by one of the authors of this book, and of course I signed it, and I thought that was a cute little note to leave in a book like that. It would be more appropriate when I eventually write a haunted hotels book, but I often think about that when I'm in hotel rooms. I think about the stories and the lives of the people who've been there before, the hopes, the fears, the dreams, especially in Vegas, the lost dreams, because we know what built this city. But I think about those things, and I think about all of those emotions that have happened, and stories and different lives, the conversations, the fights, the laughs, the love, all of the things that have happened in a room like that. And I wonder what happens to them. Do they stay in that space? And are ghosts maybe the things that we feel, the impressions in time and space? And so because I'm in a hotel, I thought this week I would share an eerie experience that I just can't explain that happened to me in a hotel room. And it was several years ago, and I was staying in Halifax, and I was there for, ironically, a writer's conference, as I often am when I travel. And I was to do the keynote talk first thing in the morning the next day. And so I got into Halifax, which is, I think it's only about an hour difference from my home time zone. And I got in mid-afternoon, and I got into the hotel room, which was the Lord Nelson Hotel, which is a beautiful old hotel in Halifax. And when I got there, I set up my laptop. It was mid-afternoon, and I had a meeting. I was going out with some writers to have a dinner that night. But I went out and I plugged in my laptop on the desk, and then my phone was half dead because it's an iPhone, and that's what they do when you actually use them. They die really, really quickly, apparently. And so I was looking for a charger, and I went to plug it in the lamp beside my bed. And those are the lamps that have the little plug built in. So I went and I plugged it in and noticed, it's not charging. So maybe I need to turn on the light. So I go to turn on the light, and of course the light doesn't turn on. So then I look down and I see that the plug for the lamp has been unplugged. So okay, I'm thinking perhaps the maid who was in the room earlier probably used that plug for the vacuum or something like that. So I go and I plug it into the wall, and I do pay attention to this. It's a good solid fit. It's not one of those loose sockets. So it's a good solid fit. Plug it in. The power comes to the lamp. I'm getting it charged now. Everything's good. I do a bit of email. Then I go out for, imagine this, craft beer. I go out for some craft beer locally at the Rock Bottom Brewing, which is just down the street from the Lord Nelson. And then I come back for lunch. And what I ended up doing was I always leave the light on in a hotel room because I'm a big chicken. So I left the light on in the hotel room, and I came back probably an hour and a half later, and the light was off, which was kind of weird. And so I came around and I looked, and I saw that it had been unplugged again. And I thought that's maybe not so strange, because perhaps it was the same person who was servicing the room. Maybe they came back in and did turn down your pillow or whatever, and vacuumed again. I don't know, something like that. That's sometimes what happens. And so what I ended up doing was I ended up plugging it back in, and I went out and I hung around with the authors, and I came back to the room late at night, and again, the plug was unplugged, which was really, really strange. So I'm going to bed, and when I'm doing a talk in the morning, particularly in a different time zone, I'm worried about not waking up in time. I'm worried about what might happen if I sleep in. So I set my phone alarm, I set my watch alarm, and I also call for a wake-up call in the morning. But despite all these precautions, in the middle of the night, I constantly am worried that I'm going to sleep in. And so what I had done was in the middle of the night, I ended up continuing to check my phone, which was plugged in the whole night. I left it plugged in. And so as I'm checking the phone every once in a while, I wake up and I check the phone. It's about 3:30 in the morning. I wake up, I pick up my phone and I look at it and I go, okay, it's 3:30, I still have a few hours to sleep. And then I notice that the phone, which has been plugged in all night, is only at 30%. And that's when I got really, really panicked. And I'm in the dark room and I hold the phone up and the light casting from the phone is obviously enough to light up. And I lean over the bed and I hold the phone and I look and I see, yes, that lamp is unplugged. Yet again, in the middle of the night while I was sleeping. So I imagine maybe someone came into the room, snuck around on the floor and unplugged it. Maybe a giant rat pulled at it. I didn't know what it was. I couldn't explain what it was. And I had a very eerie sensation about that whole experience. But all I thought of is maybe it's an omen. Maybe there's something that does not want this lamp to be plugged in. Maybe it was to protect me from something. Maybe something bad would have happened. Maybe there was a short or something in the wire, or the wiring for that. And so I decided for the rest of my stay there to leave that lamp unplugged. And that's what I did. Ironically, the next night, in order to get to sleep, I had to go down to Rock Bottom Brewery and drink a lot of beer, including finishing off with a 14% hearty stout, so I could just pass out, because I don't think I was going to be able to sleep otherwise, even though it was a relatively good feeling, even though it was eerie and unexplainable. Again, I don't know if there was a ghost in the room. I just know that there was something in that room that did not want that lamp plugged in, and I was going to kind of let it have its way for the rest of that little trip. But in any case, that's an eerie story of a hotel that I cannot explain. I am currently haunting a hotel here in Vegas, and I continue to haunt hotels around the world as I travel. But next time you're in a hotel, just think about what might have been happening, what all the things, all the stories that have happened in that very space you're occupying. And regardless of whether or not you believe in ghosts, that hotel room is most likely haunted by many, many things. Again, this is Mark Leslie for Free Friday Frights. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you have a fantastic Friday, and